Welcome to Israel Chronicles. Today we're diving into one of the most transformative periods in the biblical history, the journey of the Israelites from Egypt to the Promised Land. This chapter spans from the mid-Bronze Age to the late Bronze Age, covering the Exodus, the 40 years in the desert, the conquest of the land under Joshua, and the era of the Judges. Let's uncover the biblical narrative and the fascinating archaeological evidence and discoveries that brings these stories to life. Let's start with Egypt. The story begins in Egypt, where the Israelites lived as slaves under Pharaoh. The Bible tells us they were forced to build the storage cities of Pithom and Ramesses in Exodus 1:11. Archaeological discoveries at Ramesses in Egypt, identified with Ramesses, reveals evidence of a large-scale construction project during the reign of Ramesses II around the 13th century BC. Mud brick buildings, granaries, and storage facilities suggest a massive presence of a massive labor force. Similarly, the site of Tel El-Maskuta, associated with Pithom, contains ruins of structures and grain storage facilities that align with the biblical account. These findings, along with other inscriptions, give us a glimpse of life during this period, a challenge faced by the enslaved Israelites. The Bible also describes a major shift in Egyptian power. During the Second Intermediate Period, around the 17th century BC, the Hyksos, a Semitic people, ruled northern Egypt. They were eventually overthrown by the native Egyptians of the New Kingdom. This change in power corresponds with the Bible's mentioning of the new king over Egypt who did not know Joseph, in the book of Exodus, chapter 1, verse 8. The Hebrews, likely associated with the Apirus or Papyrus labors mentioned in Egyptian texts, became enslaved under the new kingdom of Pharaoh. The Exodus marked a turning point in the Israelites' history. God raised up Moses to lead his people out of Egypt through 10 plagues and miraculous parting of the Red Sea. The Israelites escaped Pharaoh's grasp and began their journey to the Promised Land. While direct evidence of the Exodus is limited, archaeological surveys in the Sinai Desert Peninsula have identified trade routes, temporary encampments, and artifacts consistent with a nomadic lifestyle. These findings, combined with the ancient Egyptian records mentioning in the Apirus, supports the broader context of the Semitic people on the move. The route of the Exodus is significant. Instead of taking the direct way of the sea through the Philistine territory, God leads the Israelites into the wilderness. The Bible explains in Exodus 13, verse 17, that this way to prevent them from facing war too soon, as the Philistines were a powerful and militarized nation. The land of Israel. After 40 years in the wilderness, the Israelites entered the Promised Land under the leadership of Joshua. They crossed the Jordan River and began the conquest of Canaan, starting with Jericho. Excavation at Tel El Sultan, the ancient site of Jericho, reveals evidence of a sudden destruction during the late Bronze Age. This aligns with the biblical account of the city walls collapsing. One of the most dramatic moments in Joshua's campaign was the destruction of Hazor. As described in Joshua 11:10, the Bible recounts that Hazor, the head of all those kingdoms, was burned to the ground by the Israelites. Archaeological evidence supports this narrative. Excavations in Tel Hazor have uncovered a layer of ash and extensive evidence of a catastrophic fire that destroyed the city during the late Bronze Age. This layer is dating around the year 1200 BC, matches the biblical timeline of Joshua's conquest. Artifacts from Hazor, including charred remains, burned mud brick structures, and destroyed temples provide a vivid picture of the city's fiery end. This destruction is unique, as Hazor was one of the largest and most significant Canaanite cities, with a strategic location controlling the trade route. Another key site linked to Joshua is the altar at Mount Ebal, discovered by Adam Zartal in the 1980s. This structure, dated to around 1200 BC, aligned with the biblical description in Joshua 8:30, where Joshua built an altar to the Lord. The site contains burned animal bones, ash, and pottery consistent with the sacrificial practice, offering a tangible connection to the covenant renewal ceremony described in scriptures. Another amazing discovery that was made in Egypt is the Stela of Mar Neftach. A stela is basically a column of stone with inscription on it describing and glorifying the acts of war of King Pharaoh Mar Neftach. The unique appearing on this stela is the name Israel. This is the first time in history that the name Israel appears on an ex-biblical source, again combining and authenticating the stories of the Bible. Our story continues into the era of the Judges, a time of turbulence and transformation. The Israelites, now settled in the land, struggled to remain faithful to God. Amidst the pressure of surrounding cultures, they often fell into a cycle of idolatry and oppression, only to cry out to deliverance. Othniel, the first judge, led Israel to victory against the king of Aram Naharaim. Archaeological evidence from cities like Lachish and Hazor shows layers of destruction and rebuilding reflecting the conflicts and instability of this period. For example, Hazor's earlier destruction by Joshua set the stage for its later rebuilding and subsequent conflicts during the Judges' era. From the miracles of the Exodus to the victories of Joshua into the challenges of the Judges, this period revealed God's faithfulness and his hand in history. The archaeological finds and evidence, whereas the city of Pithom and Ramesses, the Mar Neftach stela, the ruins of Hazor, the Philistine stronghold, or the altar at Mount Ebal, provides tangible connections to the Bible accounts. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time, faith, and history. If you're excited to explore more biblical archaeology and uncover the stories of the Bible, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notification. Stay tuned for more episodes of Israel Chronicles.